All right, welcome to our lesson on converting to slope-intercept form. All right, the very first couple of questions here are going to just be review questions in terms of graphing. So on the first one, okay, remember that since this equation is in standard form, one of the ways that we learned how to graph this was by making a chart, okay, and with this chart, we're going to plug in 0 for x and then solve for y. We're going to plug 0 in for y and then solve for x. So we have to solve two equations. If I start by plugging in a 0 for x, that means that this now becomes just 0, leaving me the equation 3y equals 12. And when I go to divide by 3, I get y is equal to 4. So now I've got the point 0, 4, which is right here on the graph. Next, I am going to plug in a 0 for my y value, which gives me the equation of 4x equal to 12. And when I divide by 4, I get x is equal to 3. That gives me the point 3, 0, which is right here on the graph. And then from there, all I need to do is connect my 2 points to create a line. All right, on the second equation, our reminder here is that this equation is in slope-intercept form. Remember, y equals mx plus b. All right, what that means is that m is equal to -4/3 and b is equal to 4. So I used to have you identify m is equal to -4/3 and b is equal to 4. And we would write the 4 as 0, 4. Remember, this is the y-intercept, so I'm going to start right here on the graph at 0, 4. And then I am going to use the idea of rise over run for my -4/3, and I'm going to go down 4 over 3, down 4 boxes, to the right 3 boxes, and I'm going to be able to come up with points. And then I am going to take these points and I am going to connect them, and I am going to form a line. All right. So below here, after graphing these two, what do you notice about the two graphs? Well, a couple of things that I notice is, number one, they both cross the y-axis at 4. Notice that we have 0, 4, 0, 4. The second thing I notice is it looks like the slope is the same because they're both going down 4 over 3. So now I'm thinking these two lines are the same, okay? Now that I know that they are the same, which method of graphing do you find is easier? Well, this is an opinion, so you get to have your own opinion. But in my opinion, I find graphing B easier. And the reason is, if you look at A, you had to create equations, you had to make a chart, you had to come up with 2 points and then connect. Whereas on B, all I had to do was look at the equation and identify the slope is -4/3, the y-intercept is 4, and then start graphing right away. So I find B to be easier. So what that means is, what our goal is today is we are going to take equations that are written in standard form and we are going to rewrite them in slope-intercept form and then graph. So that's our goal, is to convert equations. All right, let's go to page 2 and get started. All right. So notice, when I talk about standard form, that means my equation has x and y on the same side, okay? If I want something in slope-intercept form, I want to get it in the form of y equals 1y all by itself. So that's going to be our goal. So the very first thing that we are going to do is, it says to either add or subtract the x to the other side. Well, how do we know whether to add or subtract? Well, I look at this 2x and I notice that it is positive. The opposite of a positive is a negative. So therefore, I am going to subtract 2x to both sides. When I do that, 2x minus 2x is 0. So that cancels out, and that leaves me a -3y to the left of the equal sign. On the second part of this, I look at 18 and I look at -2x, and I notice that they are not like terms because the 2 has an x and the 18 doesn't. So I am going to write them separately, and when I do this, I always want to put my x term first, and then I want to put my number. And the reason why I want to do that is because I want it to match up with y equal to mx plus b. So notice we're getting close. We've got the y, we've got the x, and then we've got a number. Okay? All right, step 2. Step 2 says to divide everything by the number in front of y. So coefficient is a fancy way of saying divide by the number in front of y. Since there's a -3 in front of it, I am going to divide everything by -3. I'm going to divide the -3, the -2, and the 18. And then from here, my goal is to simplify. So -3 divided by -3 becomes a 1y. -2 divided by -3, a negative divided by a negative is a positive, so therefore it becomes a positive 2/3 x. And then the last part, 18 divided by -3 is -6. And now I've got my equation written in slope-intercept form. It matches what I see above here. Okay? So now I can identify my m as 2/3. And I can identify my b as -6 or 0, -6, which means that I can now graph my point at 0, -6, go up 2/3, up 2/3, up 2/3, and I can connect and form a line. All right, so a quick review. Number 1. The very first thing we want to do is add or subtract the x to both sides. We subtracted the 2 because the 2 was positive to begin with. Then we divide everything by the number in front of y. So we divided by the -3, the -3, the -3. And then after that, we simplify. Okay? We simplified the numbers when we could. Once it's written in slope-intercept form, we identify the slope and the y-intercept and use them to graph. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 more different examples, and we're just going to practice this over and over and over again. If I'm ever going too fast, stop the video, pause it, write down what you need, and then you can catch up from there. All right, I'm going to go to example 2. All right, step 1 says to add or subtract the x. Since right now my 3 is positive, I am going to subtract 3x to both sides. 3x minus 3x is 0, so that cancels out. That leaves me with a -y. So I've got -y equal to -3x and then plus 6. Okay? From there, step 2, we said to divide by the number in front of y. Well, right now, there's a -1 in front of the y, so I am going to divide everything by -1. And then the third step is to simplify. So -1 divided by -1 is a positive 1y. I do not need to write the 1, I could just write y. -3 divided by -1, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. If you need to, use your calculator to check. And then positive 6 divided by -1 is a -6. So that tells me that my slope is 3. And the reason I know that is a reminder that I've got y equals mx plus b. So m is equal to 3. B is equal to -6. Okay? My 3 I'm going to change into 3/1. Remember, anytime you got a whole number, just put a 1 underneath it. And then my b is equal to a 0, -6. So I'm going to start here at -6. I'm going to go up 3/1, up 3 boxes to the right 1 box, up 3 boxes to the right 1 box, and I've got enough points that I can make my line. All right. Example 3. From this one, okay, the very first step is to add or subtract the x. Since it's a positive 5x, I'm going to subtract the 5x. When I go to do that, I'm left with just my y, so y equals, the 3 and the -5 can't combine together, so -5x plus 3. Now, I don't have to do step 2 because I'm already in the form of 1y, okay? I could divide everything by 1, but it would all stay the same. So I'm done. So now I know that m is equal to -5, which is the same thing as -5 over 1, and b is equal to 3, which is 0, 3. So I start here at 0, 3. I go down 5 boxes over 1, down 5 boxes over 1, and I've got enough points now that I can make a line. All right? If you feel comfortable enough, pause the video and try example 4 on your own. If not, I'm going to do this with you, okay? And this will be our last one. From here, remember, add or subtract the x to both sides. So in this case, I am going to subtract x because there's an invisible 1 there, so I'm going to subtract a 1 to both sides. That cancels out the x's, leaving 4y equal to -x plus 12. Next, I'm going to divide everything by the number in front of y. And now I'm going to simplify. 4 divided by 4 becomes a 1y. There's an invisible 1 here, so this becomes a -1/4 x. And then 12 divided by 4 is 3. So that gives me a slope of -1/4, and that gives me a b value of 3, which is 0, 3. So I've got the point 0, 3. My slope is down 1 over 4, down 1 over 4. And I've got some points that I can now use to make a line. And that's it. That was our goal for today. All right, you can skip this question. We did this one together in class. And then your homework is page 4 and page 5, where you need to convert the equation into slope-intercept form like we did, identify the m and the b, and then graph. Okay? All right, reach out to me if you have any questions.